Good evening. I'm Kate Erin, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Coos County. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dollars and Cents of Coos County government. This will be a panel discussion of the Coos County budget for public safety services and law enforcement. And I want to thank the Fort County officials who are our panel speakers this evening. We have Commissioner John Sweet, District Attorney Paul Frasier, Sheriff Gabriel Fabrizio, and Erin Larson, who is filling in for my friend who's unable to be here tonight. And he is the Director of Community Corrections. The Coos County League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and our mission is to encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government to increase the understanding of major public policy issues and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. We have been active in Coos County for 70 years, the national organization over 100, but we will celebrate our 70th anniversary in 2024. And we advocate for public education on the county budget processes so that citizens can make informed decisions. The event will be recorded, and so you can watch it again, and there will be future viewing on the League's website. And now I will turn to Francis Smith, our League's first vice president, who is serving as our moderator this evening. And thank you again to the panelists.
Hi, thank you, Kay. And thank you, audience, for being here this evening. I'm grateful to these county officials who've already put in a long day for being with us this evening. And we're eager to hear the information that you have to share with us. And also be able to ask you questions about funding for county services. Now, each panel member will have about 10 minutes for a presentation, or a little longer. We're not going to time you or cut you off mid-sentence. We're going to start with John Sweet, who will give us an overview of the county budget, where the dollars come from and how they are spent. We will then have Sheriff Fabrizio. Following him will be DA Paul Frasier, and then Erin Larson from Community Corrections. And then each of you will describe your department's purpose, the current use of county resources, and the specific challenges for funding your department's services. After the panel has finished with their presentations, questions from the audience will be presented to the panel. Audience members, you are asked to write your questions on the paper provided, and then we will have someone come by and pick them up. We're going to start, as I said, with John Sweet.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone coming tonight. Our county, I think, is at a crossroads when it comes to financing the various things we do at the county. I think we do a reasonable job of everything already. But the slate that we do for public safety, which I believe to be one of the primary purposes of the county, and that's unfortunate. Okay, get there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for attending. And the crossroads I'm talking about will be a choice that all of us as citizens will have to make here before too long. And it's to increase funding somehow or another. Generally, that means more taxes. If there are other ideas besides taxes, we should talk about those. We should get them out. We should vet them. So when it comes time to vote on the tax increase, should that be where we go, that we are voting yes or no on a tax increase, not voting that no, I don't want taxes because I think there's something better. We need to have that conversation earlier So when the time comes, which is likely to be next May, we're reporting on the future of public safety in this county. There's not room in the county budget there's not much deadwood in the county, any that I can find. And so it has to come out of one big department. And one of the biggest departments is the departments that provide public safety. We, as commissioners, don't take tax increases lightly. I want to talk about the situation here, give you some numbers up here to think about, to know about. Let's talk about taxes. So here's a series of three numbers. $3.51. That's $3.51 per $1,000 of assessed value is the tax rate charged by the average county in the state of Oregon. Currently, our tax rate is $1.28 per 1,000. After you pay your taxes in November and pay off make the last payment on an emergency communications system that we installed 4 years ago, when our taxes will be reduced to $1.08 per 1,000. Less than a third of what the state average is. In the 10 years that I've been a commissioner, we've managed to reduce our taxes by paying off debt from $1.58 per 1,000 to currently $1.28 per 1,000. And as soon as we collect the payment for the last payment, or the money for the last payment due on our emergency communication system, they'll revert to $1.08 per 1,000. This has not been easy. It wasn't too many years ago that our county headcount, our employees, numbered 550. Today it's 350. And were it not for the big buildup in federal health care activity, we'd probably be more down around 300 people today. So I don't think I know of any governmental institution in the state that has reduced its employment from 550 to 350. We're serious about giving you good value for your tax dollars. $3 million. That's the amount of money that in the last 10 years we have of non-tax money, of sustainable non-tax money that we have been generating. About $1.5 million of that comes from abandoned dunes, volunteer a room tax, dedicated largely to public safety, with a little bit for tourism promotion. They're not promoting themselves. What they're doing, they're enabling the county to provide facilities, put in programs to help attract people here. So this $3 million is sustainable. It's in the form of I told you about the abandoned dunes thing. We instituted a safety program, saved us $500,000 a year in insurance premiums. We've made our solid waste department and our parks department self-sufficient. They're not dependent upon tax money, and they did that by charging more for their services and providing more services and attracting more people. What else did we do? We charge some of our departments that are really here to provide services that are funded by the federal and state government. They were always charged. They were always had to pay their own way, all their available costs. But we did their payroll, we did their insurance, we did their safety, we did their accounting, and so we started charging them for that. That created $400,000 a year. These two numbers, $6 million and $140 million. $6 million is about what we get each year in property taxes with which to run our county. $140 million is our total county budget. So as citizens, although we don't all use all the services that the county provides, we're getting $140 million worth of service or $6 million in local taxes. It's a pretty good deal. Well, certainly you would think out of the $140 million, you might find a little money to divert to public safety. The answer is we can't. Most of that money comes from the state and from the federal government, and it's dedicated for specific purposes. An example would be your gas tax money collected by the state, and then part of it is used by the state, part's used by the cities, and part comes to the counties. We can't use that money for anything else besides roads. Same thing with community corrections. The state came up with a great program. They figured out how much it costs to keep people in state prison. And they said, could we be more effective with the work that we're supposed to be, depending upon the prisons to do, which really ends up being like a master's degree in crime. It's not a place to go to change your life. And so they said, let's create a parole probation program, and we'll fund it with the money we save by not having these people in prison. And we've been very effective in changing the direction of people's lives here locally. But we can't use that money for things other than parole and probation. Coos Health and Wellness, our mental health and public health facility, those are completely, or department, that's completely funded by federal government money passed down through the state. And it can't be used again for things like public safety or roads or anything else. So the point I'm trying to make here, we're not going to be asking the public for money unless we really need it. And I'm trying to make the point that we've been really good stewards of your tax dollars. The trouble is, we saw this coming 2 years ago. Last year, we asked for public safety tax, and it was voted down. We had money kind of in reserve, and we were able to continue funding throughout last year, and now the year we're in, by taking $3,750,000 out of reserves. We can't do that again. We don't have $3,750,000 sitting around loose anymore. So at some point in time, we're going to have to figure out how to raise enough money. And we're guessing it to be around $4 million a year. We've got to sharpen our pencil and make sure that's good. With the tax levy is good for 5 years, the way our system works. This is a permanent tax rate. That never increases. If we need more taxes or anything, we have to ask for a special tax levy. And unless it's a bond issue or what else would it be? It's a 5-year tax levy. And so we've got to estimate not only what we need to do the job next year, but for 5 years out. And with inflation and everything else, that's not an easy task. This was when we first completed our budget. We always try to get it done early. I can't remember, it was about half of this. But we were losing people right and left. We have so many open positions that we can only run one half of our jail capacity. We were losing assistant district attorneys. We were losing patrol deputies and jail deputies. We were not competitive. And so we thought, well, and what was really happening, so many people were abandoning ship that it left such a stress on everyone else that was there. They say, well, I can get more money in Goose Bay or more money in Salem, and I get to go home every night. They don't sit around working all hours of the night and being called in on the weekends. And so we were losing people. So we said, okay, even though we know taking money out of the house. So that's where we are. We've got to fill that gap. And we've got to fill it for the next 5 years. It's conventional to use tax money. That's normally how governments are funded. But I want to hear from you in the worst way if you have other ideas, because we really need to vet those ideas. If they're good, we need to use them. If there's for some reason if they're not good, then we need to make the point that that won't work again, so that when it comes time to vote on the tax levy, if that's what we end up doing, you'll be able to say yes or no to that levy. You won't be thinking, well, I know we need this money for public safety. We'll talk about what it means to us. The other three on the panel will talk about that. You need to know that you need to vet that before time to vote. So you vote yes or no on the tax levy or whatever else, other funding mechanisms we come up with, not vote on the choice of funding mechanisms. So with that, we'll turn it over to Gabe.
Okay.
I'm going to do the outskirts. When it goes some when it narrative form, I had a PowerPoint put up, but it was really boring. Tried to make this a little more colorful, but I'm just going to ignore it completely. If you have any questions on it, please let me know. That got down into some weeds. I actually narrowed that down from 3 pages. We only have 10 minutes, but Ms. Francis mentioned the function and then the challenges that we're going through. So Sheriff's Office function, we serve 52% of the population in 1,621 square miles of the 1,650 square miles of the county. The other 29 square miles are in municipal areas. We have on the sheet of wrote down numbers there. We have 2 to 3 deputies on it at a time patrolling those areas. We have the jail, of course, dispatch that serves those unincorporated areas, as well as a couple of the cities. In that as well, we have the contract deputies, which is the marine, beans and timber, and animal control, civil, search and rescue, and emergency management umbrella as well. We have a lot of different functions in the Sheriff's Office. We have a pretty large budget, as you can see, about $16.7 million is our annual budget right now. A little over $3 million of that is made up through grants and contracts, contracts like with the government for one of our deputies to patrol their areas. Yeah, not a whole lot of contracts on the straight patrol side, contracts mostly contract side. Emergency management makes up half of it. We get about $1 million through the 911 tax funds through our PSAP, our primary service answering points for dispatch. So all in all, we cost the general fund, cost the taxpayer about $13.45 million per year is what we cost. It's expensive. And historically and traditionally, public service or public safety, excuse me, is the largest burden on a government agency. It's always had been. So going through that, like I said, I don't want to belabor the point too much. Commissioner Sweet mentioned other ideas. We have been racking our brain. We had a major turnover at the Sheriff's Office this year. A lot of the old admin left. I took over 4 years ago as a captain, but I'm pretty new into law enforcement. Captain Mooney had been there a long time. He left at the same time as Sheriff Zanny. So we had a brand new captain come in. I'm new as sheriff. We had a new captain in my spot. So the admin is all really new, which has a lot of advantages. We lost a lot of experience, but we get a lot of new, fresh looks at everything. So one of the things we're doing is really trying to think outside the box, think alternatively, and go forward with any new, fresh ideas we have. It's got a lot of ways. That's definitely hasn't settled. It's taking a long time to implement a lot of these ideas. But one of the things we have been looking at is funding. And oh boy, have we thought bake sales? Sure. Of course, I won't. But we thought of districting, of getting districts, kind of like the idea of rural fire districts. Now, the county's already split up as far as our dispatching is concerned. District 1 is Lakeside, 2 Hauser, 3 is down in Charleston, etc. We thought about maybe seeing if the district you want to pay for a deputy to be resident in that area, which contains a whole lot of advantages for that area. We've looked at that. Don't know if it's sustainable. We had Mr. Williams promoted the idea of donations to fund the Sheriff's Office. That's not sustainable. Of course, it's not predictable. It's not a way to go forward with personal costs. Thought of pretty much everything we can, and we're still trying to think of things. So, like commissioner said, if anybody has any ideas, more than welcome them, more than welcome any ideas moving forward. A lot of our challenges are unique, I think. The money is there as far as the support from the commissioners who control building space and finances for the sheriff's office. They've supported us in that. He's right, we were hemorrhaging people for a long time. We were a training ground for people to get them in, we get them certified, they get a little experience and then move on. Because their wages were so much higher than OSP before we got our rates recently. Their step one, their initial entry was $18,000 more than our initial entry. It was a lot to them. They're still way higher than us, but it's better. Commissioners came to me and said, "You're losing so many people. What's the percentage look like?" And we had recently done a local job analysis. I took every agency in Coos County, and our association had looked at the 6 comparable sized sheriff's offices throughout the state, and we had numbers ready. So thankfully, and that looked at 10% below for the deputies and 18% below for the sergeants, to where we were sitting. They said, "Okay, we need to stop this hemorrhaging. We need to attract more people." So they gave us that raise, and it had helped. It has helped. It has increased interest. With that interest, we've gotten more applications. With the applications, the increased application, what I was able to do is an analysis of that, what kind of return we get. The interest is there, but the quality or qualifications is still a challenge. I got about an 8% from application to hire is what we're getting. We lose a lot on backgrounds. Oh, I didn't tell you about that penalty. Sorry. We was a lot on the titles. You'd be surprised at what that happens. They lost one day. However, they square one in this morning too for the jail, which is awesome. So yeah, we lose a lot on sites, on backgrounds, we lose a lot on the state mandated testing, both written and physical testing. We lose a lot of those. Not people don't expect or don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? So each one has its own gate. We lose about 50% on the physical and written testing, about a third on backgrounds, a third on the site. So when we get to the end, we finally get there. We have a lot of processing right now. I don't do numbers. Every time I do it, jinx myself. Then don't. Yeah. Our number one priority is getting to jail. I do understand how much of a burden it is. My deputies are frustrated by it. The officers are frustrated by it. The cities are frustrated by it. It is amazing the ripple effect that has on the county. I get it. We're trying really hard to get that together. We really need to. When the commissioner's talking about levy, he's talking about ways forward. One of the questions, I know they're supposed to be anonymous, but I want to write it down. Somebody has a mind to inform me, great. If we don't find an alternative source of funding for the county and we have to cut $4 million from next year's budget, where is that cutting going to be? And of course, that's through the commissioners and through a civilian oversight committee. Every year we go through this. Might look through the year and try to convince some of those 2 pages for it. Where's that cutting going to be? What's gonna lose? And the easy answer is, right now we're at 49 beds. That's $1 million right there. We got off that extra 49 beds. It's not open. It's reality. I don't want to think about it. It sucks, but excuse my language. But that's reality. So that's my challenge. My challenge is finding qualified people. Sent the guys out. Actually, sent people some training, some training stuff about recruiting, about hiring people. We put together a lot of possible courses. We would hit really hard. We're 4 down in dispatching. Everybody wants to dispatch. Still 3 down in contracts and 4 down in the jail. So we can use that. Anybody wants to down. We're but we have. Let's see what else. There's a lot on the paper. Again, I don't want to bore you with it. We're increasing our efforts quite a bit. We hired a grant writer to use grants. Grants are out there. We've done that historically much in the past. Kind of a pain to administer, but that's something that's important. It's free money. No further questions? Okay.
Census is When the voters fight for, I have a voting story. Some people may already heard it. So, would you like to hear my voting story? Let's hear your voting story. Okay. I was trying a murder case back in 2016, and we're in the process of picking a jury. And we had 12 people in the box and 2 alternates. And we were, the defense attorney and then myself, get to ask these people questions. And then we get to start exercising what are called challenges. We get to excuse people that we don't think would be a good fit for this particular case. Anyway, the defense attorney stood up and he wanted to ask this particular question. And the trial was like, I think in June or July. It was right after the May election. I had just been reelected as DA in 2016. And he stood up and he asked the jury panel and said, how many of you voted for Mr. Frasier in the last election? And what he was trying to do was, he was trying to get them to say, well, yeah, I voted for him, and I think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I believe everything he has to say, therefore I will be fair, and, you know, get him excused that way. I objected to the question because, well, my first part of my objection was, Your Honor, I don't know if this makes any sense, this type of question, because I ran unopposed. And then I said, secondly, Your Honor, I've always felt that some people vote. It's their own personal choice, and if they want to keep it private, that's their business. They should be able to keep it private. Judge Barron overruled the objection. So he turns to these 14 people and says, okay, how many of you voted? Raise your hand if you voted for Mr. Frasier in the last election. Nobody raised their hand. Now, my first reaction was, gotcha. So I put that in the back of my mind and proceeded with the trial. After this, looked at my elections up to that point. And I discovered that I think in my first election in 2008, the voter turnout was around 33, 34%. In my second election in 2012, it was a little bit higher, almost 40%. And then in that 2016 election, we got low 40s, I think it was. So in those elections, over half of the registered voters in this county didn't vote. So I got to think, well, they probably didn't vote for him because they probably didn't vote. I tell the story when I go out to forums like this because I think it's really important that we do vote. We have this great opportunity to have a say in where our governments are running, and we should take advantage of it. And as I tell my children when they were at home, if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. So, and that's my story. Okay, let's talk about the DA's office. I have 4 basic departments that I'm charged with. One you're most familiar with is the prosecution side. We are the people that we take the police reports from the 10 police agencies in this county when they arrest someone or they want us to review a particular case to see if a crime has been committed. We are the ones that review those police reports. We make decisions about whether a case should be filed, whether it should not be filed. If we decide to file a case, then we make the decision about do we enter into a plea negotiation, do we not? If we go to trial, we're the trial attorneys. We handle pretrial motions. We handle the trials, we handle the sentencings, and we have, in the last few years, having to deal with a lot of things that, in the past we really didn't need or had to worry about. For example, when I first became a DA in 2008, I might get 1 or 2 requests from a convicted person asking the governor to commute their sentence or pardon them. and I have the opportunity when that occurs to voice my opinion to the governor about whether that's a good idea or not. And I was getting maybe 1, 2, 3 a year. Unfortunately, or fortunately, how we look at it during Governor Brown's tenure, I was getting 3 or 4 a week, asking for my input on whether a person should be commuted or pardoned. And that takes time because some of these cases are old and go back and look at the file and look at these things and make a reasoned decision for the government to rely upon. So those are the type of things we do in the prosecution area. We also do in the prosecution side of things, we do mental commitment hearings. And these are for hearings where individuals have mental illness and we're trying, they probably have not committed a crime, but they have severe mental illness and they're a danger to themselves or a danger to others. And so we take them before the court and ask the court to involuntarily commit them so that they can get the mental health treatment. Problem we have now is, again, when I first started, I've been a prosecutor now for 39 years, so I've been doing this a long time. But when I first started as the DA in 2008, we did maybe 1, 2 every couple of months. Now we're seeing 3 or 4 months. And the other problem is the standard for placing somebody at the hospital has gotten so high that it's almost impossible to get a judge to agree that that person should be involuntarily committed. We lose more of those hearings than we win. The other problem is if we are successful in getting a commitment, there's no room in the end at the state hospital. There's no place for these people to go, so we end up having to try to treat them in the community. I'll talk a little bit more about that perhaps a bit. So we have some challenges there. Now, the problem I have in the prosecution side of things is my budget for the prosecution alone is just under $2 million, and it's all general fund money. There's no money from any type of grant or outside source. It all comes from that $6 million in property taxes every year. That's $2 million right there. And I have a staffing problem. I'm down. I budgeted for 7 deputy DAs. I have 4. And 2 of those positions have been open for a year, over a year. I can't get people to apply. I went to the commissioners, and part of the reason is, and some people would say, gee, this is a bad thing. The number of lawyers, the number of people coming out of law school has gone down. Not too many people want to go into the profession anymore. And it could be with costs, student loans, those type of things, but the number is going down. And then the number of lawyers that are getting older, like me, are retiring or dying. And so we're not growing as a profession in Oregon. Right now we're flatlining, if not going down. So the pool out there for hires is not that big. We used to be, I had an opening in the office, I'd have 10 applications in a week, and we'd be doing interviews and have the position filled in 2 or 3 weeks. Not anymore. We went to the commissioners, we talked with them. We were starting at SEDA at around 64,000 a year. Other counties were significantly higher. For example, Clarkins and Washington counties were starting their deputies at 85,000, 86,000 a year. Douglas County, our neighbor, was starting at close to 75,000. We just could not compete with the limited. So I went to the commissioners. They gave us money. I can start a deputy VA now around $80,000 a year. I'm still not getting any takers. We were offering $5,000, I don't call it signing bonus, but it's moving expenses. The way we treat it, it's almost like a signing bonus. Okay. We get applications, and they're terrible applications. Dave talked about the guy that forgot to talk to the phone. I had one lady in Colorado who forgot to tell us that she did. It was an injunction against her by Colorado Supreme Court telling her not to practice law anymore. Boy, yeah. Goodness. Well, that's my problem. I'm worried about my people burning out. Last week, one of my deputies was out all week because of a family emergency. Her mother was in pretty bad shape, but she had the state to go be with her. Youngest lawyer sent her up to a week of training. Three of us in the office to do everything to get to work at 8. Okay. As for normal, not this for a while. We got 2 people back and we're doing great. We got 5 to work in the team. And my youngest deputy who just lives across the county line, Language, and we said she's a Curry County person and she does a great job. She got called for jury duty. Curry County. And I'm going, nobody in the right mind is going to put a deputy DA on a jury. So guess what? I'm on a 4-day civil trial. So it's not enough. And we're triaging stuff. And basically what it is we're doing the best we can with the person crimes that are coming into the work. But that's the property crimes. We've got time to get to them, but we're triaging things. It's not going to get any better unless I can get some people. I'm appreciative of what the commissioners did, but I'm not sure at this point it's enough. We need to do more, and I don't want to go there. Frankly, I probably would do that. But I felt during my tenure as the VA, I've done my best to go with a status quo budget. I've tried year after year after year to go to the commissioners and say, hey, I need 3 more deputies, or hey, I need more money for this, money for that, because I knew I was there. But I'm worried about if we don't find a solution to this funding crisis, those 3 positions I have are going to be on the chopping block when we try to balance the budget next year when we're trying to figure out where we're going to save $4 million. And if that happens, whoa, which creates a problem for these guys. Because if you go out and arrest somebody, and I don't have to even prosecute them, it's a broken wheel. And then over here, I'm sure Erin's going to tell you this, but I'll be there to the punch. Yeah, they get money from the state, but the money they get from the state, they have a parole and community correction program with probation officers and parole officers to deal with these folks. The amount of money they get is based on the number of people that they have that are on parole and probation. If I can't prosecute the people these guys find, they're not going to go on to probation or eventually parole for these people to supervise. So they're funding. That's jeopardy. Okay. That's a big part of the office prosecuting. We've got 3 other parts of the office. The medical examiner's program. So I'll back up to prosecution. For some reason, Coos County, we are leaders in violent crime. We've got here, this is a report from the state medical examiner's office that came out late last year, stats for 2021. I haven't got a report for the stats for 2022. But in the year 2021, guess which county led the state in the per capita ratio for homicides? Coos County. Those cases take an inordinate amount of time. I can afford to charge homicide cases on my desk right now. I've got 2 more that they want me to look at. And I just haven't had time to get them. Okay, medical examiner's office is under my purview. It costs about $250,000 a year. Best program in the state as far as I'm concerned. But she's got some issues there. Last year we had 17 overdose deaths the whole year. This year, and just beginning October, we're at 23. And the year before that, 2021, we had 7. And these guys, we don't know the number of people that are being saved every day because they're carrying Narcan in their cars. And I don't think a day goes by where somebody isn't nearby someplace and there's going to be an overdose because of a police officer.
And you created Narcan once.
They're buying Narcan by the pallet. I have a crime victims assistance program. It's predominantly paid for by state and federal money. The county cuts in about $130,000 a year, about a third of its cost. And then we have the child support office, and the vast majority of that is covered by state and federal money. That's the county had to chip in about 5-7% of its total cost to keep it up and running. It's a great program. We collected nearly $3 million in child support last year. Coos County kids. So it's well worth the money. So overall, for my department, it's around $2.5 million. We're faced with staffing issues. And before I'm not running yet, it's 66. I was told me you're done. And I learned a long time ago, happy wife, happy life. So by the end of this year, it's my intent to be tired. I can send this to you and say, hey, it's time to get down the road, but something is picking myself, trying to figure out ways, what can I do? But when you only have so many people, there's so much to do. So on that depressing note, I'll give it to Erin and maybe share some of that.
Hi, good evening. My name is Erin Larson. I am the lead probation officer for Coos County Community Corrections. Our director, Mike Crimp, will be here tonight, so got an invite to do this. And I always look for ways and opportunities to educate the public on what we do. People here on probation or community corrections.
Yeah. Hi, your kid.
So community corrections, we supervise people mainly on felony supervision. Currently we supervise about 420 people. And that is actually a low number for our department. When I first started in the adult corrections, 2004, we were supervising around 1,200 people in this community. As Commissioner Sweet had said, and Attorney Frasier had said, our funding for community corrections is based on our count. So count meaning the body, the person we supervise. Right now, again, we're at about 420. That funding comes from the Department of Corrections. We don't utilize the county's general fund. So we currently have we have 9 probation officers. We have a director, we have a business manager, and we have our clerical staff. So probation officers, I just want to give you a little heads up because that's my passion. That's what I am. I'm on the line. I'm out in the field. Again, we supervise people with all kinds of felonies. For example, today we just got somebody out that served 29 years on a murder charge and came out to the community with nothing. So our department is able to utilize some of our funding, our emergency funding subsidy, to put that person up in a hotel for a couple days just to get, to stabilize them. We never know what our day is going to look like. We could be in court in the morning. We could be out on the docks in Charleston. We go into people's homes that are on supervision. We are looking for violations. We are trying to assist them to be positive community members. And so right now, we talked about our case count. Our case count is low in part is we're not receiving those cases from the DA office. We're seeing kind of a shortage, the backlash or the trickle down from the Senate Bill 110, which is the criminalization of drugs. And we're even seeing the courts and the parole board not putting that as a condition on people's supervision conditions, not use drugs or illicit substances, because it's essentially decriminalized. In some cases, we don't have that as a condition. But we are seeing the fallout in the streets of not being able to do our job, as far as not being able to hold people accountable when they do violate their conditions of supervision, not being able to put them in jail, Coos County jail. We don't have adequate space. So again, part of our job is to get to hold people accountable. And how do we do that when we don't have an adequate custody response? We do provide some funds to the jail to pay for the beds that we use. We also contract one bed currently out of the Reed's Court jail, municipal jail. It's not enough. I could pretty much keep that jail full with my caseload alone for violations. I worry about this community. I've lived here all my life, and again, we're just seeing the fallout of not being able to do our jobs. When we see somebody escalating in their behavior and we're not able to hold them accountable, or in jail or some other quick and swift response, I think we're just seeing that fallout. We have a lot of successes as well in cultivation. We contract for services through your first step, which is in sober housing. We can 14 beds there. And again, it's not a residential treatment facility. Unfortunately, Coos County doesn't have a residential treatment facility, but it is planned sober housing, and they are kind of a one-stop shop. We contract with for polygraphs, drug and alcohol services through ADAPT, sex offender treatment. We help pay for that. Some of our internal programs are our transitional treatment program, which we're very proud of. It's somewhat like set up like a mock drug court. We have a lot of community members or community partners, that come to the table. We have our mental health person. We have our treatment staff. We have a PO. We have mental health, and we all come to the table, and we bring the person in that's on community supervision, and we all get together and try to come up with creative solutions of how for this person to be successful. We have work crew, so we use work crew in lieu of jail, or sometimes in combination of jail as a sanction. We have gotten creative this last few years, and we have a great department. We have POs that our heart is there. We want to do this job. We know it works. We know that swift consequences help people change. we also, not only the consequences, but we want them to be successful in the community as well. So we wear two different hats as POs. We are both half law enforcement and half social worker. And so we never know, and that can be changed by the person that comes through the door. So our main focus is community safety. And we focus on, again, trying to get people to change for the God community law violations. And you guys aren't all of you are being victims of the people that we provide. Does anybody have any questions, or would this be the appropriate time for the questions?
Yes, we're gonna.
Okay, we'll start the questions.
Before we start questions, I have about 3 to 5 minutes to summarize.
Anybody have questions you want to do?
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that we didn't say is that public safety is just not full people on the road. It's not just the jail, not just the prosecution. It's not just community correction. It's not just juvenile. It's a system, and it has to all work together. If any one part of it fails, the whole system falls apart. Now, why is this so important to the county? Why are you not hearing about this from the cities? All they do is provide patrol. Every other function, prosecution, incarceration, community corrections, and juvenile, are all performed by the county. In addition to that, we have our own patrol. So if we are not properly funded to keep all of these departments staffed at the level they need to be staffed and in balance, the system falls apart. A city policeman arrests someone, brings them down to us now. If he or she, it's a little harsh, hadn't committed a murder, beat up his wife, abused a child, or raped someone, he's probably going to go home. There's no place in the jail for him. If someone is put on parole and probation, he doesn't obey his parole and probation, there is no stick because there's no room in the jail. If he doesn't show up for a work group or for a work party or wherever it is, there's no stick, no consequences because there's no room in the jail. That's the hammer we have. We have to have that and that threat to help change that person's life. Once he has a little time and gets away from his friends, his bad habits, then we can work with him. But if he persists on not behaving, we have no answers for him. There's no consequences for bad behavior in this county. And it's really, really serious. And I got to tell you, these people are working hard. Most DAs in the state manage their offices. This guy is trying cases all the time. Gabe is out in the communities all around the county. He's really done a great job. Our jail, though, we have lots of room. We got 4 pods. Each pod can, round number, take 50 people. But we can only operate 1. We'd like to operate 2, but we don't have the money for the second one. Community corrections. When we had more jail space, they made almost, the state grades them on marks, and they have like 18 or 19 things they have to do right. And we used to get always 18 out of 19. Now we're lucky to get 2 or 3 out of 19. Because part of our system isn't available. DA's office, 1,500 cases behind. So we're not feeding, and if he weren't behind, there wouldn't be room in the jail anyway. but he's not feeding the parole and probation system. Our patrol officers and the city patrol officers get so frustrated because the county is not able to do its job. And I can assure you, it's not because we don't want to do the job. It's money, pure and simple. And, you know, most of our money that we get is dedicated to certain places. Our departments are so small that if you take one person out of them, they're not affected. You can't have a 4-person county clerk office and take one away from that. If you do, you can't vote. If you do, you can't. There's no place to put no place to issue marriage certificates, birth certificates, death certificates. You know, file your property thing. So, and the same with the assessor's office. And go right on down the list. There's just, we have no room left to cut people. As I said, we're from 550 down to 350. There's no place to go. And so it's a choice that we can advise you to make, but in the end, it's going to be your choice. And it's more than just asking for a vote. You're going to have to, if you want a good public safety system, you're all going to have to go out and push for that. You know, as government employees, we get accused of just looking after our own well-being. I can assure you that is not what this group of people is interested in. They're interested in your well-being, the well-being of the county. But we have a lot of people that say no to any reasonable request. So if we're going to need your help. And if we've missed something, if there's something out there besides taxes that we could be looking to, let's talk about it. And we need to be able to have a good two-way conversation. You tell us why you think it's good. We tell you, well, that's a great idea, or we've tried that, or we thought about that. It won't work for these reasons. But when I go to vote, again, we're not voting on another system of financing. It's an up or down vote, yes or no, for this, whatever it is that we agree is the right way to fund the county.